Hello everyone, we're reading again today from Murder in the Kollel. We're going to read chapter 15. I hope everybody's healthy. It's just before the holiday of Passover, Pesach. Everybody should have a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. Chapter 15, PlayStation. The loaner was a fairly new red compact Hyundai, and if you pushed the seat as far back as it would go, it was adequate. Not comfortable, but adequate. The car was not going to win any speed records, but it was a reliable transportation. We both decided to officially end our investigatory day. Almost getting blown up seems to have that effect. Take it easy, at least for today. Be happy you have it today. It was decided that we should drive to Daphna's house. 4 reasons shaped this decision. First, our clothes were smeared with dirt, engine oil, and debris from my now defunct car. It was not that obvious on my black suit, but Daphna's outfit was ruined. Second, the state police were probably enjoying Mrs. Kallen's picnic lunch, but that did nothing to satiate the growing hunger pangs I was experiencing. I was starving, and a late lunch at Daphna's house seemed very appealing. Third, I needed to pick up the talis and tefillin that Daphna had so kindly promised me, so that I would have them for tomorrow's morning prayers. Fourth, and most important, Daphna said that there was a good chance that her computer programs had by now digested the material on the disks, and it was quite possible that she could tell me what had been erased. Mrs. Kollel went ballistic the moment she saw Daphna enter the house, but that was nothing compared to how she reacted when she heard that her daughter had nearly been blown into orbit. Then she really started to get angry. She calmed down only slightly when we were able to assure her that we had not been injured at all. Daphna's mom began a whirlwind of arguments aimed mainly at Daphna as to why she should stop all the detective nonsense. She pointed out that what we were doing was obviously dangerous, and Daphna had her 2 daughters to worry about. Mrs. Kollel hit us with the 4 classic questions asked by any concerned Jewish parent when his or her child did something stupid. The questions had nothing in common with the 4 questions of the Passover Seder, but they were equally rooted in antiquity. Mrs. Kallen's 4 questions that she asked over and over were: 1. Are you crazy? 2. Are you out of your minds? 3. Do you know what you're doing? 4. Bist du Meshuggah? The last was an earthy Yiddish expression that combined the meaning of the first 3 and challenged our basic ability to make rational decisions. Mrs. Kollel would say 2 questions and then throw in one of the above, through 2 sentences and then throw in one of the above questions to prove her point. Then she would start all over again. A typical sequence of her sentences would be: you are going around asking people all sorts of things that make them angry. People who know how to make bombs. Bist du Meshuggah? It took more than 30 minutes for her to concede that her daughter was indeed a grown woman and capable of making decisions on her own, no matter how irrational they were. So it was not until almost an hour had passed that Mrs. Kollel relented in her harangue, and Daphna was able to go change her clothes. It then gave Daphna's mom the opportunity to offer me a late lunch, early supper, which I kindly accepted. She is a terrific cook. When Daphna returned to the kitchen, she was wearing a bright yellow t-shirt and a tan skirt. She wore a tichel, a headscarf, rather than a wig, and I could see a few wisps of her own hair sticking out. It really was the same color as the sheitel. Interesting. It was also the first time that I had a hint of Daphna's figure. Not bad. Not bad at all. There I go once again, making observations that were inappropriate for Yeshiva Bacher. But I couldn't help it. I said I was a good detective, didn't I? I had second helpings of just about everything Daphna's mom served and was feeling sated and sublime. I would have taken thirds and maybe a 4th helping, but I did not want them to think I was a chazer, a pig. It was not often that I had food as good as this, well fed, and in the after effects of an adrenaline rush of this morning's excitement, I just wanted to sit back and do nothing for a while. I was knocking on the entrance to Nirvana when Daphna asked, "Do you want to go to the vault?" The computer disks. Of course I did. Maybe they contained the reason for someone blowing my car to smithereens. Absolutely, I answered, getting to my feet. "Let's go," she said. Daphna sat in front of a computer console and began typing. Well, I guess she was typing because her fingers flew across the keyboard in a blur and words and symbols appeared on the screen. There was some whirring and line after line started rolling up on the screen. Aha, said Daphna. Her practiced eye had seen something that had come up on the screen, but to me it was all gibberish. Aha, what? I asked. Daphna pointed to the screen. Someone definitely did a Google swipe on the disk. When was it done? I asked. Daphna checked something on the screen and said, 2 days before the rabbi died, at 7:23 in the evening. Not so great, I commented. Why? Well, that means that 4 people could have done the swipe, I said, stating the obvious. Rabbi Klein, Rebbetzin Klein, someone with access to the computer who killed the rabbi, or someone with access to the computer who did not kill the rabbi. It could be anyone. In addition, we still don't know if the erased files had anything to do with Rabbi Klein's death. Please tell me you can tell me what was on those files, I said to Daphna beseechingly. She looked at me and asked, do you want the good news or the bad news first? Why do you always have to play these games with me? Just tell me and put me out of my misery. Okay, here goes. I can't tell what was on those files. She paused for effect. Stop it already. You're killing me. I can't tell you what was on those files, she repeated, and then continued, right now. Because they have been erased completely and overwritten, so they're gone. Gone. But from the signature on the disk, I know where those files were downloaded from on the internet and where they came from. I can get them. It's going to take a few hours and quite a bit of computer magic and finesse, but I'm pretty certain I will be able to tell you what was in most of those files. Baruch Hashem, praise be to God. I knew my pronunciation was terrible. It should have come out more like Baruch Hashem, but it was the closest I could get. Daphna shook her head from side to side. You practice that ch sound some more. You made God sound into a babbling brook, the Hashem brook. She got back to typing and setting her computer into action. I could not help but wonder how she did what she was doing so successfully. How long have you been a computer nerd? She continued writing a program as she spoke, never taking her eyes off the screen. I suppose it started when I was 6 or 7. 6 years old, I exclaimed. I started reading at age 3, so yeah, 6, that was when my dad bought me my first computer. Who taught you to do what you do, I asked. Well, it was mostly self-taught, she answered simply. Computer language and writing code just came naturally to me. At first I had no idea what I was doing, so I just played around. Within a month I wrote my first program. Something was bothering you. How come you can find this data and the East Lansing computer guy can't? Remember I told you that I don't really read? Yeah, you said it had something to do with image processing. Exactly, she agreed. Well, I'm able to do the same thing with my computer. It does not read the data. It looks for the image of the data, just like I do with my brain. To do this, I do what is known as parallel processing. So this parallel processing is special, I asked? Daphna chuckled. Yeah, you could say that. So why don't the other computer geeks use parallel processing? A couple of reasons, she said. First, some geek has to write the code to do the parallel processing. I get it. I said, and they don't know how and you do. Is that it? I suppose there are a couple of thousand people who could write code for parallel processing, she stated simply. In the country, I asked? No, in the world, she said. But that is not enough. To use parallel processing, you also need a tremendous computer capacity, like a supercomputer. NASA has a setup. The credit card companies also have one. It's very expensive. And you have a supercomputer? No, I don't. The Cray company, the builder of the supercomputers, went out of business years ago. So how do you make it work? I inquired. I improvised, she said, pointing to a 3-foot stack of electronic hardware sitting on the table located in the middle island. You see those machines? Read what it says on them. I could see letters embossed on the top surface of the uppermost machine. Sony PS4. That is a Sony PlayStation 4. Its brain is the Jaguar. It has the most advanced multi-core system that can be found in the world. The CPUs are just about the quickest in the world, but that is nothing compared to the GPUs. That's what does it. I once heard something about CPUs, but what's a GPU? Graphics Processing Unit, said Daphna, surprised at my ignorance. It's the GPUs that give the unit its oomph. They can change all the pixels on the screen tens and even hundreds of times a second. Is this machine anything like my niece's PlayStation? The very same, she said. Are you saying that parallel processing is some sort of game? No, not at all. What I did here was to wire 12 PS4 machines together. That's my creation, and that is what I use instead of a supercomputer, and that is why I can do parallel processing and the other geeks cannot. And this super PlayStation is going to get us the missing files? Daphna hit the last key with gusto. She pressed the enter key and watched the material written on the screen race upward. There, I'm done. Did the computer get the files? I asked eagerly. Oh no. The super PlayStation does not get files. It only finds them, she said. So how will we find out what was in the files? I'm going to borrow them from where they originated. Explain, please. Those files originally came into the computer as files downloaded from the internet. They are no longer on the computer, but I know their origin. I will simply go to the site that sent the files and download another copy. Why did these sites let you come into their computers and make copies of their files, I asked. They don't. As a matter of fact, the sites are usually fairly well protected so that people cannot see their files at all. So how do you get permission to enter their sites? I don't, was all she said. It took me a moment and I understood. I think I really don't want to know how you do this. Daphna nodded and said, I think that would be best. Yeah, I agreed. That would be best. I've got a lot of work ahead of me tonight, so why don't you take the tallis and tefillin and head over to the Kollel for afternoon prayers, then go back to your hotel for a good night's sleep. I'll see you tomorrow morning for breakfast. Is your mother cooking? I asked eagerly. Mom's cooking, she said. I'll be there. Almost getting killed has a way of exhausting you, and when I returned to the Marriott after prayer services, I was ready to turn in early. I had just finished my shower when the room phone rang. I was quite surprised to hear Rabbi Kalmanovich's voice say, Reb Shimon, are you all right? I heard about your car. It's a nace, a miracle. No one was hurt. I'm fine, Rebbe said. Not a scratch on me, I assured the rabbi. And Daphna, is she all right? And how did he know about her? Of course, Mrs. Kalin, we're both fine. Of course, Mrs. Kalin, we're both fine, I said. You know what this means, asked the rabbi rhetorically. It is, as I said, this was not a suicide. Somebody killed Rabbi Klein. I did not want to point out that there were other possibilities that would explain the car bomb explosion, because for some reason, what the rabbi just said suddenly rang true to me. You can take it to the bank. I don't know what caused me to have that sensation. It was something in Rabbi Kalmanovich's tone. So I answered, you're probably right. I am definitely right, insisted the rabbi. Rabbi Kalmanovich's roots were from Misnagid Yeshiva, and that meant that he was not one that believed that certain rabbis had miraculous abilities. His official credo was that in times of need, each person should pray directly to God and not rely upon spiritual go-betweens. Nevertheless, it was rumored around the yeshiva that Rebbe could do stuff. If he prayed for you, the prayers got answered. Sick people got well. Business problems suddenly were solved, and much, much more. If Rabbi Kalmanovich says it was murder, you could not ignore it. Yes, Rebbe, I'm working on it. Tell me what you have learned so far, he requested. I spent the next half hour giving the rabbi all the details of the investigation. Rabbi Kalmanovich ended the conversation with, let me know how things progress and keep up the good work. Also, get some sleep. That's the end of chapter 15. We'll do chapter 16 tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.